Whilst many older people are becoming wise to the risks of online scams, the risk is still pretty much high for those who do not spend a lot of time with digital technologies. Research has found that older people are more susceptible because their brains fail to detect suspicious body language, and that they are more trusting as they didn't grow up in the era of online scams and cyber criminals. To tell us more about how vulnerable older people are to cyber fraud and also share tips on how to help them, we're now joined via Zoom by Anna Collard, and she is the Content Strategy and Evangelist at KnowBe4 AFRICA. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sims. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on the show this morning. What are some of the contributing factors that make the elderly people even more susceptible to fall for online scams?
I think, first of all, the fact that some of the seniors are, they may have cognitive limitations. For example, if you happen to have Alzheimer's or something like that, then it does impact the way you perceive the world, the way you perceive social engineering, which is the act of targeting humans or hacking humans.
Yeah.
And something that I think, particularly after the COVID pandemic, that we need to be aware of is the isolation, like people that have been by themselves for a very long time, and that loneliness or that isolation in itself impacts how we think. And unfortunately, that's what the criminals take advantage of. And, if you think of someone who's been sort of isolated from human contact, if they then get contacted by, let's say, a romance scammer or any sort of other scammer that's very polite, very friendly and charming, which is how they often are, it's quite likely, even if you're not older, that you may fall for it.
Right, right. What are some of the tips that the younger generation can actually use, to help the elderly to not fall prey to online scams and fraud?
I think the first thing to do is raising awareness, just to make them aware that there are literally people that go to work every morning, literally like any other call center, and they're just out there to scam us. They're not necessarily targeting older people or younger people. They just target anyone that falls for it. But it's literally an industry where they have targets, they've got quotas to meet, and they're literally out there to call and fish, meaning sending email scams, the population. So just to make them aware that there are people out there that are out there to scam us. I think in the past, actually, I just heard a story last night by a friend of mine, her grandmother was scammed, like way before, the internet, by people knocking on the door, pretending they had a letter from the Pope, and they needed money from her. And I think, the point is that these sort of techniques that they used in the real life, where they try and build a rapport, they are charming, they are friendly. That's exactly what they do over the phone as well, or over the internet. So it's really important to be careful and not to believe anything that's incoming that you haven't expected. Particularly, by the way, another technique that they do a lot is pretending to be part of your family. That, for example, they may say, "Oh, I'm in distress. I lost my phone and my wallet, and I need some money urgently." Obviously, when you're a mother or a grandmother, you want to help, and unfortunately, that's often the techniques that they're using. So whenever there's a request for money, even though it may look like it comes from your family, it's important to verify that before you transfer.
Anna, I'm sure that you and I at some point received these emails that a wealthy prince has died and left a huge amount of wealth in my name, so they only need my bank account for them to transfer that wealth to my account. But why is it so difficult for older people, perhaps, to detect when an email is a phish or an email scam versus one sent by a reputable company?
That's the thing, those Nigerian prince emails. They are, because people talk about it. So most of us, would detect that. But nowadays, the criminals are much more cleverer. Like they do use, like you said, they impersonate reputable organizations. They may contact you, and they may send you an email and call you at the same time, so that you put extra pressure on it, pretending to be from your bank, for example.
Yeah.
And there's some examples that I heard about, from local scams that are really professional. So these call center agents that call you, they sound like they're from that particular institution. They will have some of your information already. They may have your address already. They may pretend as if they, know things about you, which they can buy off the internet because of the breaches that have been, happening. So a lot of our information is out there already, and they use that to make you think, oh, okay, they know my ID number, they know where I live. Obviously, it must be from the bank. And that's exactly where we need to warn everyone, basically, to say, if you get an email request or a phone call pretending to be from your bank, pretending to use something that makes you nervous or slightly scared, like, for example, we've picked up some fraudulent activity, obviously you immediately, you said, your heart rate goes up, you say, oh God, what's going on? So as soon as our emotions get triggered like that, it's actually a warning sign to say, okay, let me first take a breather. I'm not reacting right now. I will call you back, not on the number that they give you, but you actually Google the institution's number and you call them. Another thing that they also do a lot is what I mentioned, the Roman scamming, pretending to be someone that's interested in you romantically, and unfortunately, you think it's only all the elderly ladies that fall for that. It's not true. It literally can also happen to the younger generation, by the way, that we fall for that. But yeah, they're out there to scam us, and it's just important to be aware of that.
And another popular scam is sending a WhatsApp or Telegram message pretending to be a family member in distress who needs urgent financial assistance. Tell us more about this. I've also fallen prey to this, but I knew beforehand that it was actually a scam, and I told them where to get off.
Well, yeah, no, that's great. And in fact, a friend of mine, it happened to him or his mother. And what they do is they pretend to be, let's say, your son or your daughter, or a friend, and they'll say, oh, I lost my wallet, or I got robbed, or whatever it might be, and I really need some urgent assistance. And obviously, when it's someone that you care for, and that's again that's where the emotion comes into play, where we feel empathy, we do want to help, and that's where they get us. So it's really important to verify before we do anything. It's always making sure that you speak to the person affected. Another thing, by the way, that also happens in the professional world is, they may say, we've changed our banking details, or use this account rather than that account. That's a really red flag.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's very important that we talk about digital illiteracy. But Anna, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Many thanks to Anna Collard from the KnowBe4 AFRICA for joining us this morning to speak about how older people are more vulnerable and susceptible to fraud. And she just shared tips on how to help them.